Let's be honest, modern medicine is broken. Patients are dismissed, doctors are exhausted, and mental health care is decades behind. So it's time to disrupt the status quo, to challenge a system that fragments care, dehumanizes patients, and burns out clinicians. I'm Dr. Georgine Nanos, and this is The Kind Revolution, a podcast about breaking old paradigms, rebuilding medicine with compassion and science, and reimagining what healthcare can be when we finally get it right. Because change is here, and it's starting with us. Welcome to the revolution. Welcome back to the Kind Revolution podcast. Today's episode is something that challenges the way most people view mental health and how it's delivered. Because for a lot of people, the experience looks like this. You don't feel like yourself, you're anxious, you're burned out, you're low, or you're just off. So you go to your doctor, you're given a medication, and then you're told to wait weeks, maybe months. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you feel a little bit better, but still not quite like yourself. And for many people, that cycle continues for years. And that's often the best, we've been able to do up until now. There's usually therapy involved, which you may or may not be able to do or access. So what if we approach this differently? What if instead of trying to affect the brain indirectly, we could actually target and stimulate those areas in the brain responsible for mood, focus, and emotional regulation? That's where transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS, comes in. But what we've built at Kind Minds is not just a treatment, it's a completely different model of care. And today I'm joined by Lauren, our Director of Marketing and Operations, who oversees the full patient experience inside our clinic. And she has a really unique perspective because she sees what patients come in feeling, how they move through treatment, and what actually changes over time. So thank you, Lauren, for being here.
Yeah. And, I think what's so interesting is that patients are usually calling us. They're saying, something feels really off with me. I don't feel like myself. I feel like I've tried everything and nothing's worked. And they hear 1-day treatment. And I feel like it sounds different than anything that they've ever been told before. So they almost think it's not real. But for my side, yes, I am overseeing the team and the day-to-day patient experience. So I get to see kind of what happens once they come in and then also how they're progressing over our year of care, which we'll get into. But I did want to kind of walk through everything with you because I feel like everything that you've built is very intentional. So, let's kind of get into before building your clinic, Kind Minds, this way. What were you seeing over and over again in patients that just wasn't working?
Yeah, so it's a lot of what we were talking about before. Medicine and access to healthcare is a pretty broken system, but mental health care is way worse. Even in the best of circumstances, like I was saying, optimal care, you see your primary care doctor. And this is the other thing. Most of mental health care is access at the primary care level. So 80% of anxiety and depression are treated by primary care doctors. And that includes family doctors, internal medicine, OBGYN, pediatrics. And so we are seeing the bulk of mental health care in this country, and we're trained to do that. And so we have a unique lens on this. And what happens is patients trust. The reason is that they're more likely to open up to their PCP that they have a relationship with and, feel more comfortable, because these are really emotionally charged discussions that can be hard to have with someone just out of the blue. So anyway, in the best case scenario, you talk to your doctor about this and you get prescribed probably an SSRI, which is the most common medication for depression and anxiety. This is, again, I'm not anti-pharmacology here, not anti-SSRIs. They are fantastic drugs. I've prescribed them many, many times over many decades, and they are highly effective. So this is not an anti-pharmaceutical thing, but they have limited effectiveness. They're only effective about 50% of the time in the best case scenario. And we also recommend therapy, but therapy is also very difficult to access in this country. There is a scarcity of available therapists. It can be very expensive. Oftentimes patients have to pay out of pocket. And even just getting an appointment is difficult, and finding a good match to the person that you can really connect with is really key. And it takes quite some time sometimes to find that right connection and then move along to get what you need. Well, best case scenario is you do therapy, a combination of therapy and medication. But even with that, patients often don't get to where they want to be, where they're feeling themselves again. And that's where TMS comes in. It's really
a fundamental difference in the way we approach mental health, because TMS medications work systemically, meaning like they circulate through your entire body, they affect multiple pathways, and we just hope they land in the right place in the brain to create the right effect. And sometimes they do, but it's very indirect. And TMS is entirely different because it is very direct. We are directly stimulating the part of the brain that's responsible for mood regulation, focus, and emotional control. We're not guessing. It's not guesswork. It's highly, highly targeted. And the cool part, and this is my favorite part about TMS, is that it's been around 40 years. It's been FDA approved for 18 years now in the United States. We have over almost 20,000 peer-reviewed studies, over 450 randomized controlled trials, and it has no long-term side effects. Let me say that again. It has no long-term side effects. I can't say this about anything in medicine. And so to have something that is so powerful and so effective and so safe to treat such a major problem is, I think, the most incredible thing. But, it's been grossly underutilized for a very long time. So I kind of meandered off. I don't remember what your question was because I can talk about this, as you know, forever on in every aspect.
Yeah. No, I think, and I mean,
You're like, yeah,
the traditional way that this was set up was almost it's setting patients up to lose faith in this process, so they get halfway in and then they don't want to start. And I think it's important to kind of recognize that too, because TMS isn't talked about enough and it is readily available to so many people, but they
yeah.
just don't know about it. And the traditional model was, which, for people who don't know, is 36 days. Then Stanford developed the same protocol, which was 5 days, the 36 treatments over 5 days. And then you actually were part of a study that pioneered the 1 day protocol. So kind of tell me a little bit about that and the advancements that we've made within that time.
The original way that TMS was delivered was in this 36-day protocol, and that's how most TMS clinics are still delivering TMS in the United States today. 90% are doing it that way, probably more. With that model, it becomes, like you said, very difficult for patients to do that on a regular basis, to see it through. And we now know that compared to these accelerated protocols, the efficacy of TMS is much lower with those longer protocols than with the accelerated protocols. So as you said, about 6 years ago at Stanford, they condensed that protocol to 5 days, 4 to 5 days, 10 sessions a day. But even that became very challenging for people. And so when we first started doing TMS in our clinic, that's what we were doing all the time. We became experts at accelerated protocols. So whereas most TMS clinics in this country deliver this standard 36-day and very rarely do accelerated protocols, we were the opposite. We were only doing accelerated protocols. So we got very comfortable with this, and I think that's an important nuance, because delivering accelerated versus traditional TMS is a completely different animal. There's a lot that goes on for patients if they're getting multiple stacked treatments in a day, and handling that requires a special level of expertise. And so because of that, 2 years ago, we embarked on this landmark study that we pioneered here at Kind Health Group, and looked to see if shortening the protocol from 5 days to 1 day would do anything for people, if it would be as effective. We had no idea what to expect. And it was the most incredible thing that has happened, I think, maybe in my career, to be witness to this. And the privilege to be the first site in the world to do this is quite remarkable to me still, because it is transforming psychiatry and interventional psychiatry and mental health in such a profound way. So I feel really lucky. So what happened was, we did a multi-site trial, 2 sites here and then in Seattle as well. And we got incredible results, as good as Saint. So as the Stanford trials. And so, of course, this was not a randomized control trial. It was, it was a case series and a retrospective case series. And of the 34 patients that we treated, 92% had a response, which is fantastic. So a response is defined as a greater than 50% reduction in your symptoms. Say, like when we measure depression symptoms, we use a scale, or let's talk about the anxiety symptoms. We use a scale called the GAD-7. So let's say you scored, I don't know, 20 on the scale. And so a response would be a greater than 50% reduction. So let's say we test you again and you get a 9. That's a response. Remission would be going below like almost negligible symptoms, like under 5. And so not only did we get patients have a 92% response, we had about a 71% remission rate, which is insane. And it's so remarkable and so exciting. And now that one-day protocol is being studied at every major research institution that studies TMS in the entire world, which still I cannot believe. And it's so exciting that we were part of this. And since then, that's all we've been doing. That's the only kind of TMS that we deliver now is the one-day TMS. We've refined it in a lot of meaningful ways. And yeah, again, I'll let you talk because as you know, I can go forever.
So tell me a little bit about what that looks like from a clinical standpoint, from what a typical day for a patient doing one day looks like.
Yeah, so it's a long day. Patients come in very early. They come in around 6 a.m. It's usually a 12-hour day. And they start with getting their motor threshold measured, which is tells us the amount of energy needed to deliver an effective treatment. And then they go through their sessions throughout the day. The sessions themselves, the TMS treatments, take about 14 minutes, and then they're spaced about 20, 25 minutes apart. And then in the beginning, patients are usually nervous because they've never had this before, but it's very comfortable. It's very easy. We use the ExoMind device. So this is another really key differentiator for us here at Kind Minds and Kind Health Group is that one of the other barriers besides the time component to getting TMS in this country has been the devices. So a lot of legacy devices, older devices, were very uncomfortable for patients to complete their treatments. So not only were you asking people to come in for these long extended periods of time over months, you were also asking them to do something that was uncomfortable. So you had like a double barrier there. In the last couple of years, devices like ExoMind have come out, and ExoMind has really been the game changer in this space, makes it incredibly comfortable. We have 100% comfort satisfaction. Again, like these are crazy numbers. It seems too good to be true. Like nobody complains on this device. They literally will fall asleep, which I've never seen. We've used so many other TMS devices and have not seen this before. So that's a big game changer for patients. So they're on the device, they get 14 minutes on, 20, 25 minutes off, and we do this 20 times throughout the day. And that's the big difference for them.
Yeah. And obviously, we do things a little bit differently here. So let's pivot and talk a little bit about the Kind one day TMS protocol and about, our results and the way that we offer this in our clinic and why we are the only clinic in the world doing it in this way.
Yeah. So what we discovered in doing this so many times for so many different people, and we have people that come from all over the country, all over the world to get treated here because we have been doing this more than anybody else. So what we noticed, and I see this, we've seen this with all kinds of TMS, not just unique to the one day experience, but the 36-day experience, the Stanford 5-day experience, and the one-day experience. The brain eventually, a lot of people have great initial responses, but over time, and it's just different for everyone, over time, some of that can wear off. That can be due to life circumstances, the chaos of life, like things happen, like shit happens to us constantly. And what TMS really does, and I say this all the time, you hear this probably for the 100th time from me. TMS is not pushing happiness into your brain. TMS is actually creating resilience. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond and react to it. And so what TMS is doing is creating resilience. It's building emotional regulation. It's building your ability to manage your thoughts and your behaviors, and so that you can react when things happen to you, so you can cope with life. Because there's, like I said, no limit to the chaos that's constantly coming at us, and we can't change that. This is helping you deal with life more effectively. And that's why it's so effective across so many different mental health conditions. So, what we see for all comers of TMS is that over time, and that can be at the 6 month mark, sometimes the 9 month mark, sometimes the 4 month mark, sometimes the 18-month mark, it starts to wear off because life keeps coming at you. And so, what we found is that if you are following patients very closely and you can intervene earlier and give them maintenance TMS, basically, you can maintain them where they were, you get far, far better outcomes. And so, that's what has been completely game changing for us in the way we deliver our care. So, yes, we do a 1 day intensive protocol to start. It's a big 12-hour like boost out of the gate, but that's really the starting point. It's not the finish line, it's the beginning. And this is where we are completely different from every other clinic in the world because we are committed to you for a whole year after that. We are following you daily for the first week after that, then weekly, then monthly, and then as many times in between as we need to. And we're measuring. We are measuring every single time to see how you're doing. And if you start to slip back, we will add more TMS. And so essentially in that first year, you get unlimited TMS to get to where you need to be and to maintain that result. And then that goes on afterwards as well. And so that's where we've seen the biggest impact for people. And that's what's so exciting because nobody is doing it this way. So to be able to like get people to where they need to be and to keep them there has been like the most incredible opportunity to do this for people. No, it's like such a big deal to me because like we see people like I mean just this week we had, patients that were like on the brink and to like bring them back and to like keep them well is like it's so powerful. It's such an incredible privilege to be able to do that. God, why
Yeah.
crying? But this is the everyday experience we have here and like I so want more people to know about this.
Yeah, and I think it's
Sorry.
important to no, you're fine. You're fine. It really truly is incredible, and it is amazing to see the results and outcomes that we've had, and that's something that I feel like is really recognized as well when we're meeting with people for the first time is essentially like we will not let you fail. Like you have come to us, we will take care of you, we will not let you fail. Like we will make sure that you leave here feeling better, and that is something that I don't feel like any clinic can really is able to offer in the way that we are, and I think that's because we have built we have such an amazing team. I'm very proud of that. But
Yes,
I
the
also
team
think that
is everything. I mean, it was a big
everything,
shout out to the team.
everything, everything.
Yes.
And on top of that, I think that we've also curated this experience from learning so much from the concierge care practice that you built because it really is about whole person care. It's about giving that time and attention to people and making sure they're living happy, healthy lives. And I feel like it's an extension of our concierge care program is our year of care with TMS. And that is unique to us. It's special and it's effective. It works. I want you to kind of go into telling about one of your most pivotal patients that you've seen. These are my favorite stories that you share about like tell me about one of the most pivotal TMS patients that you've had within the last year where it just absolutely blew your mind.
Well, you know the one I'm gonna talk about.
I
We just
do.
saw him today, and
Yep.
I'm definitely gonna cry a lot. And again, this seems too good to be true. This is almost as the marketing, as our head of marketing, the problem we have is that this sounds too good to be true. And so
100%.
this is again one of the most transformations I've seen in my career. And I have a patient who I actually just saw this morning. He's a 27-year-old gentleman who was in college 10 years ago, or yeah, 10 years, 10 years ago, was studying, I think up at Cal. And this is another thing that again, also doesn't get talked about a lot. Gentleman, this young man, um, had a genetic predisposition to schizophrenia. And what happens for young people, men and women, in their early developmental years, teenagers to like about 25, if they're using a lot of THC, smoking a lot of weed, it's high potency, much higher than it used to be, like 4 to 5 times higher than it was, say, 20, 30 years ago. And it's really interrupting those formative connections in the brain as the prefrontal cortex is trying to learn how to wire itself. And so if you have a genetic predisposition, you can easily go into a permanent psychosis with excessive weed use. And so this is what happened to this kid. And it's actually way more common than we think. It happens in 1 in 25 young adults under the age of 25. So we have to be really careful about that. So that's another topic that we can go on for days on. But anyway, that's what happened to this kid. And he developed schizophrenia and basically was in and out of this catatonic state for the last 8 to 9 years. And by catatonic, I mean like was living at home, staring at the wall, didn't leave the house, like nothing. And his, parents, his family was obviously very distraught. I met his parents when I was speaking last year about TMS, and they approached me about treating this patient. We have treated other patients with similar type of conditions, not nearly this extreme. And I said to them, I have no idea how much we can help this person, this child of yours, but if we're willing to try. So we did, and this gentleman, this young man, it was like nonverbal, like couldn't, like would not make eye contact with me, not talk to me, nothing. Like I could barely get like one word out of this gentleman. And so after the first day, the first 20 sessions, he ended up like at the end of the day was starting to there was some like emotional lights going on and would could like eke out a sentence, which in itself was pretty miraculous. Interestingly, one of this patient's parents was a physician, and they ended up buying an Exo9 device so they can deliver more treatments to this patient, way more than we could offer in this clinic. And we started treating him in August of last year. It's now April. He's probably had about 250 TMS treatments. And I saw him today, and I see him every couple of weeks still, even though he comes in and gets like occasional TMS treatments here, but I've mostly been following with him because I want to make sure again that we're seeing success. And there was a time where, so after doing like maybe 100 treatments with his parents, he started to come out of it. He was again, not like a totally normal situation, but was starting to be more verbal, like interacting, making eye contact, wanting to do things. And then this was a hugely transformative experience for everyone in the family, the parents, me, the patient. But then like about halfway through, he decided he was going to stop. He's like, I'm not going to do anymore, and just like wanted to give up and stopped doing TMS and started regressing. And I kept telling the parents, like, I still want to keep seeing him. And they had pretty much given up hope. And he's like, I'm done. I don't want to do any more TMS. I don't want to do any more. So, but this went on for like 2 or 3 months. And so the mom was like, why? I don't want to take up your time. I don't want to bring him here. Like, he doesn't want to do it. I'm like, I don't care. We're going to keep going, and we're not going to stop. And so he would come in, we'd have a conversation. He would like, again, a limited conversation. Again, he was kind of getting more and more withdrawn. And then finally, I don't know, one day we were sitting down and talking, and I'm like, come on, let's try one more session. Like up until then, it had been 3 whole months that we hadn't treated him, and he was like going backwards. Somehow we broke through. I don't know what it was. We got him to do it again, and then he got back on track. And now he's like better than ever. And I saw him today. He's like playing pickleball. He's like surfing. He's playing the piano. I'm like, what? And he's having full, like normal conversations with me. It's amazing. So the fact that that is possible is mind blowing. Anyway, we're gonna write a case report on this. Obviously, this is like a stunning, like wild transformation that we want the world to know about. But that is the most inspirational story to me. It's obviously the very, very extreme of the spectrum, but TMS is also good for just your everyday insomnia and making you feel less burned out. You don't have to be, that extreme. But that's the
Yeah.
beauty of this treatment. Everybody can really benefit from it, no matter where you are.
Well, and it's exactly, I think, why we built it the way that it is, with our year of care and making sure, that we're staying on top of our patients. I feel like a lot of other clinics in the world, it's like you do the 1 day treatment and then you're done, or you
Yeah.
do your 36-day treatments or once a day for 36 days. And even if you fall off halfway through, no one's checking in. And that's so, I mean, if that's the way other clinics are doing it, we don't know the, troubles that they're experiencing. I don't think that they're purposely giving that level of care,
No, no, no,
but
no fault to them. That's how it's done. And
exactly.
that's what, yeah.
Yeah, we
But
just know
that,
that in our model, it's worked a certain way with our concierge care and constantly following up with our patients and bringing this to TMS and offering this year of care and staying on top of them and, essentially not letting them fail. This is, I mean, it's life-changing for us. It's also life-changing for them. It's really amazing to watch.
yeah, no, it is, again, like the biggest gift to me is being able to be part of this and to see this and to be a part of these transformations has radically changed my life, my perspective on the world and on
Mhm,
medicine. It's given me a lot of hope. But yeah, I think, and I think to your point, like a lot of other clinics don't have the time or maybe the resources or don't even know where to start. But like, and maybe have the framing wrong. Like TMS is not like the end goal, it's the beginning. And
mhm.
it's the beginning of the transformation. And it really has to be viewed that way as the starting point. And there's so much more work to be done afterwards. And I think when you fail to do that, and if you're not doing it well, that's where people kind of fall through the cracks. 'Cause I mean, I think that's even more I think what happens is if people have a really good initial response and then they slide all the way back and no one's following them, they almost go to a darker place, and I've seen
Yeah.
that as well, and I think that part's really scary for patients to have been at a good place and then to go back further is terrifying, and oftentimes they don't reach out when they're in that state, so if you don't have that constant connection with them, it really does a disservice to the patients.
Yeah, that doesn't get talked about enough. Like, that is a very lonely, isolating place to be in. We've seen that happen with people who have come in being like, you know, I tried the 36 days. I couldn't make it through because of whatever life. I mean, try getting somewhere like across town once a day for 36 days. That's
Right. Yeah.
insane. It's not set up for the average person. And I feel like within this office, we have seen that a lot where people come and they're like, nothing else has worked. And I thought I was feeling a little bit better because I had hope of this TMS treatment. But then, it didn't really work out for me. What's different, with you guys? I also love when you tell people that TMS is not an overnight fix. Can you kind of go into a little bit about when you're meeting with patients who are in a lower spot about kind of the expectations that you give them? I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, TMS is definitely not a magic bullet. Always say it's a very powerful tool in a larger mental health toolkit. You still have to do all the other stuff. If you think of like anxiety, depression, any mental health issue as like a deep, dark hole, TMS is creating this scaffolding, but you still have to do the climbing to kind of get out. And so you have to be engaged in your own care. You have to want to get better. You have to have that willingness to kind of work with us and to continue therapy. We require therapy for many of our patients, especially those who are suffering from extreme depression and anxiety. That's a really key component. So again, this is not we work in combination with healthcare, mental health care teams. So I think that is really important that people recognize like you still have a lot of work to do. This is just a big powerful boost up, but we're gonna hold you up and keep pushing you, but you got to climb. And so
Yeah.
I think if patients are engaged and wanting to do that, then that's the perfect fit. We turn lots of people away who are not a good fit. You have to really want to be here. In fact, we just turned someone away today who like was not a good fit. And so We're very careful about who we bring into our practice because we want you to have the best possible outcome and a positive experience. And yeah, we don't want to waste your time if it's not gonna be the right thing.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about how TMS is super effective for people who are really struggling with depression and anxiety. We talked about your patient case. What does it look like for someone who maybe just feels really burnt out from their job, or someone who maybe is depressed but can't admit it, maybe is anxious, can't admit it, but maybe someone who just struggles with insomnia, someone who, like I said, is like really burnt out from being a mom or being an executive or just working a job? What would you say for that person? And are they an ideal candidate? And what does that year of care look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So those are our favorite candidates because they are usually like highly motivated to feel better. And the changes can obviously be a little bit more subtle if you're not starting from like a deep dark place. But that's what I was saying before. TMS is a resilience tool. It's not so much like a happiness tool. It's not happy sad. It's resilience. And so what wears us down over time is all the stressors of life. They're like overworking these resilience circuits in our brain, and you can't like get past them. And so what TMS is doing is it's building these, like, if you think of those pathways as being jammed up and like in a traffic jam, TMS is building these new lanes of highway in that area of the brain, in the prefrontal cortex, so that when you're faced with life stressors or challenges or whatever it might be, even an actual traffic jam, you can better navigate through it and not feel that like overwhelming stress, pressure, all of that. And so it gives your brain more breathing room and space to tackle life's messes and issues. So that's why, we use it for high functioning people who are feeling burned out, who can't sleep, who have like, anxiety, who are just feeling overwhelmed, who maybe have perimenopausal brain fog, all of these things that maybe like you wouldn't necessarily take a pill for, but like you want to get fixed.
So, what if someone's listening to this and they feel like TMS seems too serious or something? I don't know if I'd be the right candidate, but I don't really know what to do. I just feel really stressed. Going for walks and listening to, trying to meditate in the morning's not working. What would you want them to know?
I would want them to know that practically everyone is an ideal patient. There is nobody on this planet that can't benefit from better resilience and better ability to focus and tackle life in a more positive and meaningful way. We treat young children, we treat people into their 90s, and again across a wide variety of conditions. And we make it easy, which I think is also unique to our practice. We make it easy and maybe even a little fun. And so we kind of take the scary out of it. We try very hard to do that with the experience here. Our team again is so warm and loving and kind. And when people come here, I think that's one of the things they often say. They feel the love, and that's intentional.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, the way, like you said, our team is phenomenal, but also the environment
Yeah.
here. We're a couple blocks from the beach. And on top of that, once you are doing your 1 day treatment, you have a whole room to yourself. Lunch is provided, breakfast is provided. You have this curated welcome basket with all your favorite snacks and drinks that we, get beforehand. And we have a TV in the room if you want to. I know you usually say that you don't want them to watch TV, but sometimes if there's like a short 20-minute break and you're starting to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm on my 7th hour here,
Right.
it might be nice just to watch something that feels a little comforting and familiar, which we always appreciate. And we also have binaural beats going all the time, or if you have a preference of music, we customize it to you. So it's a very customized, personalized experience. And we've also been very intentional about every detail with that. So I think that also makes a difference because if you're going to spend 12 hours somewhere, why would you want it to feel
Yeah.
clinical and stiff, you know?
Yes, and we've created very much of a luxury spa TMS experience.
Absolutely.
It's a multi-sensory experience
Hun
from, like, everything you see, smell, taste. It's, like, all of it.
Yes.
Yeah, and like you said, it's very intentional it's designed to
Mhm.
make you feel as comfortable as possible.
Yes. So if you had one thing that you wanted someone to take away from today's conversation, what would it be, just to wrap up here? So if someone could take away one thing from today's conversation, what would you want that to be?
I would say it's this: mental health care does not have to look the way it always has. We can do better, we can do it differently. And when we design our care around the patient, what they actually need, what they can realistically follow through with, and how we support them over time, the outcomes change dramatically. And this isn't just about a 1 day treatment, it's about creating a model where patients are supported, they're tracked, they're guided towards real, lasting change. So if you haven't been quite feeling yourself, this is where the conversation starts. Just let's talk about it. You can learn more about Kind Minds and our TMS program and schedule a consultation and see if it's the right fit for you. So reach out. We're here. We can answer any question. There's no question we can't address. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Kind Revolution.
Thanks for joining the Kind Revolution. If this gave you something real, hope, perspective, or a fresh way to think about health, please share it, subscribe, and pass it on. Medicine won't change on its own, but together we can reimagine it and build something smarter, kinder, and create a system that truly heals. This is the Kind Revolution with Dr. Nanos, where science meets compassion and the future of medicine gets brighter one conversation at a time. Thanks for joining the revolution.